morning and happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Last Friday, I mistakenly said that the Cubs had swept the Cardinals. I was not aware they were playing doubleheaders. The games I looked at, the Cubs won them all, but indeed they lost a couple. So I'll say less about the Cubs today and more about Jesus in the book of Hebrews, because Jesus is the theme of the book of Hebrews. It's a celebration of Jesus. And in chapter 2, we've been looking in particular at the idea of the incarnation, that he showed up as one of us. And last week, I ended by noting that not only is there some references to Jesus becoming one of us, but there's also this reference that we become part of the family of God, that we can be adopted into the family of God, become children of God on the basis of the work that Jesus has done. And I noted a little bit that the idea of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of all mankind is not what is developed in the Bible, that we are all neighbors, but you actually become brothers and sisters in Christ by accepting Christ. So we're moving on. I want to say a little bit more about the incarnation because it comes up in verses 14 and 15. Since then, the children share in flesh and blood. He himself likewise also partook in the same, this is Jesus, that through death he might render powerless him who had the power of death, that is the devil, and might deliver those who through fear of death were subject to slavery all their lives. So let me just note, again, there's this reference to flesh and blood. Jesus becomes flesh and blood. And I think there is an inherent challenge in this to us. Compassion is not something that can be done from a distance. You sort of need to show up. We can and should, I think, many times write checks and send them to help ministries and to help people who are in crisis. But let's not miss the fact that Jesus showed up. John 1:14 gets translated by Eugene Peterson in The Message. I think it's brilliant. He says, Jesus showed up. He became one of us. He tabernacled among us. He became flesh and blood, and his presence is here. And that's a significant point. He shows up. He understands us. This will be more important as we get to chapter 5 and we see Jesus as our high priest. He can relate to us. He understands us. He understands all the challenges that we face. Indeed, he faces them. He is tempted, and he's tortured, and he dies. So I just want to note that the incarnation is both a miracle that Jesus would do this and humble himself, and there's a challenge there to us to sort of incarnate ourselves among those who are challenged and suffering. Then I want to note just a couple comments about death, because it says here that Jesus, he renders powerless him who had the power of death, which is Satan. That is the devil, and might deliver those who through fear of death were subject to slavery all their lives. So death is an enemy. It wasn't the plan. Death is part of the curse. Death is the enemy. But death in Christ, it has lost its sting. It has lost its ultimate punch, because we will live again. Jesus is the firstborn of the resurrection. He came back from the dead with a physical body. But we will follow him. Right now, because of Christ's victory on the cross, he has defeated death. But in 1 Corinthians 15, it notes, he will destroy death. Death will be the last thing destroyed, and there will be no more death. And so, yes, it's an issue, and it causes a lot of pain and suffering when we lose those that we love, and we can't make light of that. At the same time, eternity changes everything. And we need to live as those whose lives are shaped by the hope and the promise of eternity with God in a world that's not broken, where there is no sickness, there is no cancer, there is no pandemics, there is no unemployment. All these things have been dealt with in the perfect rule and reign of Jesus Christ. And so we need to live, yes, today, showing up, helping, caring. We need to live as citizens of the city of man. At the same time, we need to live as citizens of the city of God, and to be shaped by the promises that Jesus has not just defeated death, we live again, he will destroy death. And so it's part of what he does in the incarnation. And it's part of the reason why Jesus is greater than anyone and anything. Have a good day.